TGOD.TO Podcasts.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com Podcasts, looking at cannabis news, stocks to watch, as well as insights from thought leaders and experts. Today's podcast, we look at a few early announcements from Cannabis Technologies, trading on the CSE as CNNA, FSD Pharma Incorporated, trading on the CSE as HUGE, and the OTC as FSDDF. The Green Organic Dutchman's Holding Limited, trading on the TSX as TGOD and the OTC as TGOD.TO. Cannabis Growth Corporation, trading on the TSX as WEED and the New York Stock Exchange as CGC, as well as AGRO.C Global Holdings Limited, trading on the CSE as AGRO and the OTCQB as AGGHF. First, looking at Cannabis Technologies, who gave a brief update on the soon-to-launch online CBD marketplace for Mexico in partnership with Manna Health Services S.A.D.C.V. Cannabis is currently negotiating final terms on the formal service agreement with Manna, intended to be a revenue-sharing arrangement subject to terms and conditions expected to be fully defined in the near term. It's predicted that this online Mexican marketplace will begin operations sometime in the fall of this year, with such an actual launch date dependent on when and if the Mexican authorities ultimately permit the import and sale of CBD products within Mexico. Cannabis CEO Solomon Ribby Williams stated, "The Mexican CBD marketplace branded Casa CBD will be the home of premium CBD products to service the massive Mexican market. BloomKit, our proprietary software, will provide the technology foundation for this online buying platform, and with extreme confidence that we look ahead to acting in our role as a critical service provider for the future of Casa CBD." So why is this important? This is one of the few companies that's focusing heavily on the Mexican marketplace and specifically the CBD section of the Mexico marketplace. And from what I remember reading about their earlier announcements, they have some exclusive rights as far as online distribution. Once this is allowed within the Mexican government, when that is going to be allowed is still up in the air. There hasn't been any official announcements. It's been put forward towards the Mexican government, but nothing has actually been made into law as of yet. So according to Marijuana Movement, there's one article, lawmakers plan to use the summer recess, which begins May 1st and runs through August 31st, to rework legislation to legalize recreational marijuana throughout Mexico. This recess period is particularly important given that the Supreme Court has imposed an October deadline to develop a countrywide regulatory plan for cannabis and hemp. So, similar to laws coming out in Canada this year in October, Mexico should have laws coming out roughly before October as well. But again, we don't know what exactly those will be and who will exactly be able to work within that environment right away. But it looks like Cannabis Technologies is very well prepared. So next, looking at FSD Pharma Incorporated and SolarVest Bioenergy Incorporated, it's a technology company that developed an algae-based flexible production platform capable of producing health products. So they announced that they've signed a definitive collaboration research and development agreement. Under the agreement, SolarVest will conduct research using its algae expression technology to develop pharmaceutical-grade cannabinoids. FSD Pharma and SolarVest have been investments into one another, and FSD has the option to enter into an exclusive license arrangement agreement over a subset of the project and receive royalty rights over all the products that result from the project. So why is this interesting to me? They're using solar technology as well as algae to basically produce synthetic cannabinoids, or actually natural cannabinoids, just to grow them in an unnatural environment. I'd be interested to see how this technology pans out. And there's a lot of technologies like this that are coming onto the market, focusing on solar energy, on bioenergy, just because as cannabis is a high energy cost product, any way to lower those costs is obviously a huge asset for the company. So not the only ones using solar right now, but definitely the fact that they are shows that they're not the only ones, and people are getting interested in solar right now. Next, the Green Organic Dutchman's Holdings Limited. So they are going to release its first quarter 2019 earnings on Tuesday, May 14th, after the market close. It'll be holding a conference call conducted by Brian Athaide, who's Chief Executive Officer, and Sean Bovington, Chief Financial Officer, at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on May 15th to discuss the first quarter 2019 results and future outlook. So similar to yesterday's announcements from Aurora, who's also going to be releasing their financial results on May 14th, and then the Supreme Cannabis Company, who will be releasing theirs on May 13th. So things to look for as far as financial results coming out next week. Cannabis Growth Corporation introduced Spectrum Therapeutics, a new global brand that will encompass all of the company's ongoing commercial, medical, and clinical research operations. So that includes Spectrum Cannabis, Canopy Health Innovations, and the most recent addition to Canopy Growth's medical portfolio, Bionarcos SE founded, so C Cubed, a European leader in cannabinoid-based medical therapies. So incorporating these entities into one unified ecosystem will integrate the company's medical efforts as one global healthcare enterprise. Spectrum Therapeutics now encompasses the production and distribution of full spectrum and single cannabinoid medical cannabis products, industry-leading education, resources, and support for patients and healthcare practitioners, as well as preclinical and clinical research and the development of cannabinoid-based medicines. So why is this important? The fact that they're just creating one single brand, Spectrum Therapeutics, to encompass their entire medical and therapeutic and research division. Just an interesting update from the company. And I think we'll see more companies sort of creating their own divisions. We've seen this before as well. People focusing on a beverage division or focusing again on medical and healthcare. So the fact that Canopy is doing this is pretty on trend with everyone else in the industry. Lastly, we'll look at Agrios Global Holdings, who announced that Yunnan-Hua Biological Development Co. Limited, or HMB, a subsidiary of Agrios Asia Holdings Limited, has recently obtained an industrial hemp cultivation permit in Yunnan Province in the People's Republic of China. So the permit grants HMB rights to cultivate industrial hemp in the region and to transport industrial hemp seeds, hemp raw materials, hemp stock, and their processed products. Yunnan was the first province in China to allow hemp cultivation in 2010 and has since issued licenses for hemp cultivation on more than 36,300 acres. So both federal and provincial authorities from Yunnan's capital, Kunming, have granted HMB an import and export permit, allowing for the direct import and export of goods internationally as allowed by China Customs. In addition, a food trading permit allows HMB to buy and sell prepackaged and non-packaged food products, including specialty foods, health foods, and nutraceuticals, through both retail and wholesale market channels. So why is this important? This is one of the few announcements I've seen of getting permits in China. China is still actually one of the larger hemp producers in the globe, but they're definitely not heavily involved with a lot of these public Canadian or American companies. So the fact that people are getting in there and they're allowing a little bit more of these permits, I think we're going to see more and more news like this coming out, because obviously once anyone gets involved within the Chinese market, it's going to be either a big advantage or a big problem. But either way, I think we'll see more people getting into this now that we're seeing these permits opening up, especially in Yunnan right now. And that's all for today's podcast. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.